Welcome to the deep dive. So we've got a really significant document in front of us today. It's the new apostolic letter drawing new maps of hope from Pope Leo XIV.
And it's marking the 60th anniversary of a huge declaration, Gravissimum Educationis.
Right, but this is much more than just a look back. The letter is very much an urgent response to the world we're in right now.
It is. It talks about rapid change and disorienting uncertainties. And it's not abstract. It's about the millions of children without access to primary education. It's about migration, about deep, deep inequalities. The stakes feel very high.
Which is why the mission here is so critical. Right away, the letter just completely reframes the whole conversation about education.
It does. It says education isn't some, auxiliary service. The core idea is that it forms the very fabric of evangelization.
So the mission isn't just supported by schools.
Exactly. It's embodied by them. The act of teaching, of learning, that's where the gospel becomes a concrete educational gesture. It's a really deep integration of purpose and pedagogy.
So, for our deep dive today, we're not just recapping 60 years of history, we're looking for the operating manual for what comes next.
We're looking for the actionable insights, the regenerating novelty, as the text puts it, for this hyper-digital, frankly, crisis-ridden world.
Okay, so to understand where it's going, you really have to get where it's coming from. The letter grounds everything in this idea of the church as mother and teacher.
And that framing is all about service, not supremacy. It's about accompanying human freedom. That service-first idea, it really sets the tone for everything else.
And the history they lay out is fascinating. It's not just a quick mention. They go all the way back to the Desert Fathers.
Right, who are all about the inner life, about the guardianship of the heart.
And then you get St. Augustine, who they point to for grafting biblical wisdom onto the Greco-Roman tradition, creating something totally new.
And then there's monasticism. The document gives the monks credit for the very tangible act of preserving classical works. So many of those texts just wouldn't have survived without them. It's education as an act of preservation.
This all leads up to the Middle Ages. And the letter proudly points out that the great universities, Paris, Bologna, Oxford, they came from the heart of the church.
And that whole history builds up to a key point. This isn't some disembodied theory. It's flesh, passion, and history. It's always been about practical action, which is why it gets into specific innovators.
I found that part really compelling. They talk about the Ratio Studiorum, that was the Jesuit plan for schools, a kind of unified global curriculum in the 16th century.
A blend of rigor and spirituality.
Exactly. And they mentioned St. Joseph Calasanz, who opened the first free schools for the poor, and St. John Baptist de La Salle, who was working on ways to include workers' children, a kind of early vocational training.
And it's not just a story about men. The letter is very clear about including the women who were central to this, especially serving the marginalized.
Yes, there's a whole list. Vitenda Maria Lopez y Vicuña, Francesca Cabrini, Josephine Bakhita, Maria Montessori.
And in America, Katharina Drexel and Elizabeth Ann Seton, all of them are credited with specifically opening doors for girls, for migrants, for people who were just shut out. It reinforces this idea of equity as, a historical practice.
So this history of adaptation leads us to today. And you mentioned collectivity. The letter really insists on this. It has to be a we.
It's absolutely key, not just the teacher. It's students, families, staff, all of civil society coming together. And that convergence is what stops things from stagnating in the swamp of it has always been done this way.
But how realistic is that really? I mean, a small parish school in one country and a huge, well-funded university in another. Is it truly a we?
Well, that's the challenge, isn't it? The letter calls for shared responsibility. It means the more powerful institutions have a duty, a real duty, to support the marginalized ones. It's a call for humility, for solidarity over prestige.
Okay, so that's the who. Let's talk about what the person being educated, because the letter puts up a pretty big caution flag here against some modern trends.
It does. This is the anthropological core of the document. It warns, and very strongly, against reducing a person to a mere economic tool. A person is not, and this is a direct quote, a skills profile or a predictable algorithm.
Not a skills profile. So what's the alternative? It sounds like a complete rejection of that purely utilitarian model of education.
It is. And that leads to this central concept of integral formation. Education has to embrace the entire person, the spiritual, intellectual, emotional, social, the physical, all of it.
So a system that just trains a brain for a specific job is fundamentally missing the point.
It's missing the person. The letter says value isn't measured by efficiency, like test scores or future salaries. It's measured by dignity, by justice, by the capacity to serve the common good.
That's a huge shift in how you'd measure success. It's not about job placement rates, but about forming ethical citizens.
Exactly. And that means you can't separate the heart from the mind. It warns against this trap of faith, fides, paired only with reason, ratio. Knowledge and desire have to be integrated.
So knowledge without empathy or a moral compass is incomplete.
Or even dangerous. And this is where that beautiful phrase comes in, cor ad cor loquitur.
Heart speaks to heart.
Yes. And it's not just a sentimental idea, it's a method, a pedagogy where dialogue and openness transform instruction into a relationship.
And that holistic view is why it uses that metaphor of a choreography. I thought that was so powerful.
It is, because faith isn't just another subject you add to the timetable. It's the breath that oxygenates everything else. Science, history, art. It's the unifying principle that leads to what it calls integral humanism and social responsibility.
So if we zoom out from the classroom to the whole world, the letter talks about an educational constellation. What is that?
It's the entire global network, all the parish schools, the colleges, professional centers, even digital platforms. It's this living, pluralistic network.
And its strength is its unity.
That's what it says. That interconnectedness is its most prophetic strength. And the strategy is to see the differences between schools not as problems, but as resources to be leveraged.
And what does that leverage actually look like?
It means formalizing it. Teacher and student exchanges between continents. Joint research projects between universities in the global north and south. It means what's designed in Rome can be adapted in Manila, and what a teacher learns in Kenya can inform training in Boston.
That global view connects right into the global compact on education. The letter reaffirms its 7 paths, like putting the person at the center, full participation of women, and so on.
But it doesn't just reaffirm them. Pope Leo XIV adds 3 new, very concrete priorities, a clear roadmap for right now.
Let's break those down. The first one is about the inner life.
Yes. In this world of constant noise and notifications, it says young people need space. Space for silence, for discernment, for that dialogue with their conscience. Without that inner grounding, all the external knowledge is kind of rootless.
And the second priority tackles technology head-on. Digital humanism.
This section is incredibly relevant. It means putting the person before the algorithm, period. It's about harmonizing our different intelligences. The technical, sure, but also the emotional, social, spiritual, and ecological.
So technology should serve the whole person, not just build one skill at the expense of another.
Exactly. The machine serves the human, not the other way around.
Which leads right into the third priority, unarmed and disarming peace.
A complete necessity in our time of conflict and polarization. Education has to actively teach nonviolent language, reconciliation, building bridges, not walls. It starts right there in the classroom, teaching students how to disagree without destroying each other.
And we can't talk about global priorities without talking about the poor. That's a thread that runs through this entire document.
Oh, it's central. The letter calls for real courage and quality planning to guarantee access for the poorest. And then it makes this just astonishing comparison. It says, losing the poor is equivalent to losing the school itself.
Wow, so if an institution isn't serving the marginalized, it's lost its reason for being.
That's the claim. It's a direct challenge to any kind of institutional comfort.
And speaking of challenges, let's go back to the digital world. The letter notes that the trust from 60 years ago is now really being tested.
It is. The core principle holds. Technology must serve and enrich relationships, not replace the person.
Which brings us right to the ethics of AI. If the person comes before the algorithm, what does that demand of us?
It demands that any use of AI has to be aimed at protecting dignity, justice, and work. It means schools can't just adopt the latest AI tool without thinking. They have to build critical ethics right into the curriculum.
So we need to train students to be ethical designers of AI, not just consumers.
That's the idea. And it walks this very careful line. It's not about technophobia. It recognizes that technological progress is part of God's plan for creation.
But with a big condition.
A huge one. That recognition is tied to discernment, to evaluation, to equitable access. Technology can't be used to standardize or exploit the human spirit.
And I think the ultimate safeguard against that is the final value statement it makes, the thing no algorithm can do.
Right. It's that insistence that no tool can replace what makes education human. Poetry, irony, love, art, imagination, learning from our mistakes, those are the non-negotiables.
So this document, Drawing New Maps of Hope, is really a call for a a courageous revision of how institutions operate in the face of our current crises.
It is. And the final plea is for everyone. It says to disarm words, raise your eyes, and safeguard the heart. It warns us not to get lost in programs, but to live and move with real knowledge. Not to look down at our shoes, but to, and I love this, number the stars.
That idea of disarming words, especially in the context of peace, which the document calls the gentle strength that teaches the language of mercy and reconciled justice, that feels like the perfect place to end.
It is.
So the question we want to leave you with is this. What does it mean for you to disarm words in your own life, your own work? And based on this vision, what new maps will you draw? We hope this deep dive helps you on your way.